Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey,
We are
Judith.
back.
We are back.
We are back.
Cool. For our second episode of our live coding session,
Yes.
developing a prototype of a virtual bookshelf. So cool. Last week we stopped we left it off with a list of books that our digital friend Copilot compiled, and we were glad that it was regular, popular books and not something weird. And so we had an application, well, that showed books, and we spent like 10 minutes putting down a couple lines of CSS. This week is going to be more exciting, Judith. What are we doing?
Yes, we will try to get the data from a database instead. So right now we're just displaying the mock data from our JSON file. And now we want to get that from a Postgres database in Supabase. So yeah, I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. So that would be the goal in the first step, to replace that JSON file with fetching data from the database. And then if that goes smoothly, who knows, we could think about adding data to the database. So for that, we would have to add a form for adding a new book and then, write that data to the database.
Super cool. Yeah. So for everybody who doesn't know, Supabase is, you did explain it last time a little bit. It's like this worry-free backend as a service is what you called it, right?
I think so. I think that's how they sell themselves also. So you get a hosted PostgreSQL database, but you also get the API on top. So you can directly write data to the database, fetch data kind of immediately from your front-end code. So we kind of skip this layer of the actual backend because that's already there. And I think that's quite nice for simple applications that do the typical create, read, update, delete stuff. Yeah, I guess it could reach its limitations quite fast if you have a more complex application. But for our use case, I think it's perfect. We're kind of able to build a full stack application without writing a backend. That's
Awesome.
pretty nice. Why Supabase? Maybe just one sentence. So there's other services that do that. So I guess Firebase is the most popular alternative. I personally love Supabase because it's open source and we like open source, and they have like a super open pricing model. So they have like a very generous free tier that gets you pretty far. And after that, it's a bit more obvious, I think, how much you will pay compared to Firebase. So that was my concern with Firebase a little bit, that
Yes.
you might end up paying for using the resources and you never really know how much. And also, as I said, Supabase uses Postgres, and I think Firebase uses kind of their own database
I was
structure.
gonna say Google dark magic.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Mhm.
think it's a bit similar to maybe MongoDB. So it's definitely like a NoSQL structure instead of a SQL. And yeah, so that's why
I
I
see.
think Supabase is quite nice. Firebase is also cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this post that you had on LinkedIn where you said, look, all these cloud providers amazing, but how is it possible that there's no spending cap, right? Like that you
Exactly.
can, if you, I don't know, you build something and fingers crossed, you're on your top one on Product Hunt or whatever, then you'll probably receive like a bill of $1 million the next
Yeah.
month because yeah, it just goes bonkers and scales to the universe.
Yeah.
You don't get to say no quickly enough.
Exactly, that's the problem.
Mm.
And what I like about Supabase, so we're using the free tier for this project because it's just a small little demo project, and I can decide once I have used up all the free resources what I want to happen. So Supabase gives me the option to just say, once all the free credits are used, they will simply turn off the project, which in our case is no big deal at all because we won't lose money if our virtual bookshelf goes
Yeah.
offline for a day or something. Of course, if you like run an actual product or something, you would probably instead opt to move to the paid version. But that's what I like. Kind of, it gives the user the option to decide, and
Yeah.
there should be no bad nightmare surprises with sky-high builds that you have not anticipated.
Yeah, and I mean also if it's Postgres SQL, like the regular open source database, then I imagine getting data out of it is also easier. Like you can probably dump the entire database like you would usually do and move it to your on-premise server that because whatever tech decision you have in the future, right? Like
Exactly.
there's so many platforms moving out of cloud because they're realizing that they can really save serious
Yeah.
in certain scenarios. And, so yeah, it's I think it's probably, I mean, it's also not a direct comparison, right? Like Firebase does 1 million things and Supabase is first and foremost like use this database and don't wreck your brain about it.
Yeah.
But it's generally, if we're comparing, then it's probably the more open sourcey and friendly version.
Exactly. I think for our use case, it's perfect. Of course, like for every project, you kind of need to see what requirements you have and what the best solution is. But yeah, as you said, it's super easy to get data out of Supabase and also to get it in. So you can simply import CSV files, for example.
Yeah,
I
of
used
course.
it in one project where I needed like our stakeholders to kind of give me lots of data.
Hmm.
And I got a bit tired of like creating new records in Supabase. So I just told them, like, this is what the CSV structure looks like. Give it to me in a CSV file. And they just filled it out and I could upload it and it was done. That was perfect. And yeah, so I
Cool.
think we will mainly use, as you said, the database features, but Supabase also helps, for example, with authentication. So if we think one step further at some point, we would probably want users for our little application to be able to log in and then only see their own books. And Supabase can do that as well. But that's like, yeah, 5 steps ahead, but just as a little
Awesome.
teaser that,
That's
yeah,
like the bonus round. Like if we get to that, I mean,
exactly.
that would be absolutely amazing
Yeah,
because at least, I don't know, for everyone watching this who's not a web developer, authentication is horrible. Like
yeah,
if we're afraid of databases, I'm even more afraid of authentication.
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, did you want to, I don't know, show us how to get this thing off the ground?
I will try. So again, it's a little bit of an experiment. We're doing it live.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I
we'll
think
see how it goes.
that's the exciting part to me anyway.
That's the exciting part. Maybe let's just start the application to see kind of where we left off. And it's on the wrong screen. Whoop. Here we go. So that's what it looked like last time. These are still all our mock books from our JSON file. And now the idea would be to get these, or at least some of them, in the database and fetch them from our code. And as I said, we're going to do most of it live. I did a little bit of prep though. So I created a new organization in Supabase where we can collaborate. And in that organization, I created a new project. So this is what Supabase looks like. This is our
Mm,
virtual bookshelf project. And then to set up, I just had to do like a couple of things. I added the Supabase JavaScript client to our project. So with Yarn or NPM or whatever you use, just so that we can kind of access the API. And then once you set up a new project in Supabase, it will give you 2 keys. I won't share them now because, yeah,
that's
these are
the
my keys.
secret stuff.
That's the secret stuff. That's why I did that upfront. So, but it's, yeah, Supabase will tell you what to do. So you create a new project. You get 2 keys, like one key and one URL.
Mm,
And then you kind of need to put them into your environment variables. So that will depend a little bit on your setup. We are
mm.
using Vite. So for Vite, you kind of need this Vite prefix for environment variables. And it's also, I think, a little bit different for how we will access them in the code.
No.
If you use like a different bundler, it will look slightly different. Or if you run this stuff in the cloud, it will look even different. So it really depends on where your application is running. But for our local setup, this is kind of what it should look like. So here you would just go to your Supabase dashboard, get the actual URL,
Mm,
and here get the actual key. And then put it into a .env file. So this is just like a blueprint. So you would create a copy, call it .env, and put the actual data in there.
Cool. And
Yeah.
so we're on React now.
Yes.
I suppose Supabase supports other frameworks, right? Like I don't know.
It's pretty framework agnostic because it's we're using the JavaScript client, so that's
it's not even React specific.
not at all. No. So it's just this one here, Supabase JS. It says JS, but it does support TypeScript. So that's pretty nice. And there's other clients as well. So even if you say like you don't want to use JavaScript or TypeScript, that's completely fine as well. I think it supports Flutter.
All the major stuff, I suppose,
so
right?
there's like a different getting started guides for different frameworks, languages. So there's Kotlin, there's Flutter.
Cool.
I see Svelte somewhere. So yeah, it really supports a lot of
all the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Solid JS.
Exactly.
I've been meaning to try that. Everybody seems to be raving about Solid and Astro, but in another session.
Definitely.
Not following the hype train today. Cool. So
nice.
What do we do next?
What do we do next? I would say let's create a table. Let's create a table and then let's try to connect to Supabase in our code and get data from our table.
Yeah.
That's what I think we should do.
Nice. All right.
That's also what they suggest. Get started by building out your database. I would say we're both like UI heavy people. Let's just use the table editor and do like a click together sort of situation for our table, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
You could use the SQL editor if you prefer to write out the SQL queries for creating a table. But yeah, I think we can do it like this. Let's call it books.
Editor. Yeah. Oh, you get the choice. Use the visual one or write your SQL queries by hand.
Yeah,
okay.
like I don't know about you. I'm going to use the visual one, to be honest.
It's been a while. I did that in uni, but
yeah, also I think it's become super common to use these like ORMs to access databases. So writing like raw SQL. Yeah, as you said, it's been a while.
I remember that I had a hard time with joins and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So we get two columns kind of out of the box already. One is the ID, which will be auto-generated by Supabase. So that's perfect. Created at never hurts. I don't know if we will use it in the end, but I would just leave it there. And then for the other columns, I would say we should look quite closely at what we kind of modeled our book structure to look like.
Yeah.
Where was that? Yes. So here we have our interface that we came up with last time.
Cool, yeah.
So these, I think, are the columns we should create. So title, author, publication, year, description, notes, and a rating. And we said that everything but the title is optional. So that would be like a nullable column, I guess, in Supabase. So let's start with the title.
So you can add this sort of validation in the database already, like if something's required?
Yes, exactly. Title will be a text. And here we have the settings, and the title we're going to say is not nullable because we want that one. What else did we say? An author?
Author, yeah.
That's also going to be text.
Text. Then we had the publication year. Which is a number in our TypeScript interface.
Let me just check. The author is nullable.
So that's the default, that they assume you can leave it empty.
Yes. I guess so. Cool. Next one was the publication year.
Yeah, camel case. Or not camel case. No camel case in databases. All right.
That's one thing
Yeah.
where I also installed a nifty little tool that I haven't used before, but we're gonna try it. So the
Ooh,
thing is, yeah, as you said, database is more. What's that one called? I think it's called snake case with the
yeah.
underscores. Um, in our TypeScript code, it's camel case. So we could write like a converter sort of situation, but I found a package which can do it for us. So we're going to try it.
Yes.
It's just like object to camel case, object to snake case or something. Yeah, we'll see if that works. Otherwise, we have to do it ourselves.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you also mentioned before that Supabase supports TypeScript, and I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like.
Yes, exactly. So we have the publication year that can be nullable.
Cool.
What else do we have? A description, I think.
Yes, description is a text,
And then
and
we
then
had
personal notes,
personal.
also underscore, then text.
Exactly. Oh no, text, not integer.
And last one was rating as
Rating.
number.
Cool. Let's see if that works. I think that's pretty simple for now.
So cool.
Adding 8 columns.
Bam.
Cool.
This table is empty.
Nice. Let's
Cool.
just add 1 or 2 rows maybe so we can see stuff.
Insert row.
Created at title.
Hey, and this is actually like a very nice interface for
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
something back-endy like that.
I'm just gonna take one of these.
Mm-hmm.
So the title was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, so cool. Like I'm also in the editor in Supabase,
Yeah.
and it just updates as you go.
Ooh, nice.
Like I didn't do anything, and then it showed me the new table books and said,
Nice.
"Hey, it's empty." Like, cool.
Okay. Cool. Let's just add this one.
Oh, the ID is auto-generated. Title. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna also
Cool.
add one.
So we have one book. I think that's enough for now to try it. There's one thing we have to do, and that's this thing here, add a RLS policy. I think it stands for row level security. So we kind of need to tell Supabase that it's okay to access data or create data or whatever. So I think in our case, we want one which allows everything. So we want to be able to write to the database and fetch data from it.
That's the part where people in in other podcasts say, "Don't do this in production." Like this
We're
is
not doing
exactly,
it in production.
and we just get to do it anyway.
Exactly. So, that looks different than the last time I checked this. So, let's see what this suggests. So it kind of suggests a template for different permissions you can set. So here's, for example, one for read access, for write access. We want everything. So we want to be able to insert data, update, delete, and so on. So we're going to do all. Yes. What's this? Right. So here we could, for example, say that only authenticated users can do that, which makes a lot of sense later on once we have authentication, but we don't. So we're just going to leave that to all roles, I guess. Let's call it access policy.
Hey, and this is, I'm super excited that this is so simple because like this is access rules directly on the database, right? So whatever you do in your application, and as we said, authentication, if you fuck it up, Supabase is gonna catch you, right? Like this kind of the last instance that checks before something goes in or out of the database. It does its own check, and it seems like you could do whatever elaborate checking in here. Like there were fields on the columns that you defined before that it has to be unique and all that stuff. I think that's super convenient. Like that's all the stuff where humans fuck up all the time.
Yes,
Or at least
definitely.
I can imagine that I would. So
Yeah.
that's very cool.
So yeah, as I mentioned, when you set up a new project in Supabase, you get the URL and you get this key. And with that key, you need to set these RLS policies. There's a different key. That's the dangerous key, so we're not going to use it, which would allow you to bypass these policies. But I never had to use it. So yeah, you're
There's a
you're
super
in
admin
control. So
key.
you, like, if you really want to mess it up, you can.
Yeah.
But like the default is that Supabase will try to make it
I
safe and
see.
secure for you, I guess.
Cool. All right.
So yeah, let's save this and see if please provide a SQL expression for using statement. I don't know what that means. I think
Create policy on public books as permissive for all to public using
I think last time I just put something like true. Let's Google it.
Yeah, let's Google it quickly.
I think since we want to allow it for right now for everyone, basically, we can just say true, maybe. I don't know if that will work.
I mean, we probably should say that what we are doing is not necessarily the
Yes.
most obvious case for Supabase, right? Like more people will look for something more
Of course.
restrictive than
Don't
opening a
repeat
can
that
of
at
worms to
all.
everyone. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, let's see if we get to our authentication episode, then we'll get back to this. And we'll kafutzle around with it and see what we
Exactly.
do apart from true for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nice.
Oh, cool. We have 2 books. Let's connect and see what happens, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, a bit of an experiment. I created a new, for now, empty file, Supabase TS, where we will just export the Supabase client. So as I said, we added the Supabase client to our package JSON, to our dependencies already, so we can access it now. And then I think like all we have to do is create like our Supabase, basically. That's going to be create client. So this one should be right. And now this create client function needs our URL and the key, this
And
anon key
yeah.
that we got earlier.
Yeah, looks fairly standard up till now.
Yeah, exactly. This is what Copilot suggests. It's not quite right. Again, we are using Vite, so this will look a little bit weird, I think, for how to access environment variables in Vite. I think it is something like, yes, that looks about right.
I mean, from Copilot, whatever it suggests, you can also get a feeling what's super popular in tech right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I suppose using Supabase with Next.js is probably massively popular.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, so exactly, we are kind of using the single page application approach here, so we're not using Next.js Remix, anything like that, which is super popular right now. So this would definitely look different if you used something like Next.js or a different SSR framework. But I think that should work for Vite right now. So let's just pass these. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. And then we're just gonna export this thing. Let's export it as the default. Nice. So that should be our Supabase set up.
Bam.
And in our books service, right now we are returning these demo books from the JSON file. So this is kind of where we want to jump in and instead call the Supabase client. And for that, I would suggest, let's see how Supabase suggests we do it. So we have here the documentation of the JavaScript client. Let's
Create
look at
client.
fetch
Right on.
data. So
it looks so nice. I mean, right? Like I don't know stuff about databases anymore, really. But like data error from the countries select, that immediately makes sense to me.
Exactly. So let's just copy this and modify it a little bit. So we will have to import our Supabase object that we exported. This has to be async now. Our table is called books, not countries.
And select. So, I mean, it already leans towards SQL language, right?
Yes.
So,
So this is really, you can really feel that it's like SQL. And this is also, I would say, really similar to the popular ORMs out there. If you use something like, I don't know, Drizzle or Prisma or something,
yes.
they use like a very similar syntax, I would say. Yeah, so maybe let's just throw an error if there is one. We don't really have error handling right now. But yeah, that would also be throw new. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you're just making a new error object and kind of chuck the message in that they give us. That's
exactly. So right now we don't handle any errors in our UI.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to do something with that error, I guess, that potentially gets returned. And if there's no error, we will return data, I guess. Now, we have one
I gotta
issue.
say, I'm a bit shocked. Like, this is what, like 10 lines, and also only because you put like the from and the select on a new line. So
Yeah, exactly. So we have to make sure that we get our books in the correct types, I would say. So yeah, we kind of want to return an array of this book type. So we have to make sure that, it's the correct type, I guess. So
what is it telling you, like with the squiggly line on the return data?
I think for now that's
Oh,
just my linter, because we haven't specified the return type.
Yeah, but it's complaining that you didn't do what you just described, right? Like that we're returning something.
Exactly. So
And
right
we
now
don't
it's
know
an
what.
array of
Okay.
anything. We
Yeah.
want an array of books. And that also, I think, is the part where we have to think about how we can transfer snake case to camel case. So yeah.
Oh, right on. I mean, but can we still like, would we already see data returned like in the console or whatever? Like, I mean,
Yeah, we can try it.
just to see if it and how it comes out of the database.
Let's just comment this one and let's just log the data maybe.
And so since we're on client side only stuff like this function to get all books and talk to Supabase, like that's all something that will happen in your browser, right? Like there's no server-side magic stuff currently.
Yeah. Invalid URL.
Then it's probably not reading your environment variables, hey?
Probably.
Could be that it's an empty string now.
That could be. Let's see. Ha!
Ah,
Your
lol.
Supabase URL.
I think
Nice.
because your local environment actually still has that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I thought I replaced it in the actual file.
Well, maybe I think env local is actually something that Vite prioritizes if you have it over just the .env. So if you just delete that one,
call it .local.env maybe. I don't know if that will help.
Yeah. Oh, it restarted the server already.
Ooh.
There, you're getting stuff.
We have books.
Ah, this is too easy, honestly.
I told you, it is too easy.
That means they're cheating.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really it. But as you can see, it looks like we get all the things we need. But yeah, the problem right now is the publication year and the personal notes. So I think first of all, we need to tell Supabase what kind of return type we want. Let's see if that's somewhere. I can't really find it in the docs, but I happen to know that it's something like returns, I think. And then we should say, No, now it imported an icon. We don't want that. I think we need to turn this into a type, maybe instead of an interface. Ooh,
Hey, so yeah, I mean the Supabase docs are saying something like you can create a file that's called database.types.ts.
Mm-hmm.
Also
I
define your
think
interface.
we could even, like Supabase
Generating
could,
TypeScript types, yeah.
yeah, Supabase could generate the types for us. So I've never tried that. I don't know if we need that now because we kind of have our type already.
Yeah,
But just like as a heads up, Supabase can generate TypeScript types for you. So that's super nice. Yeah.
totally.
But I want to know how this returns works. Override type of successful response. Yes. Returns my type like that.
So if you define your own type, you can just
Yes.
specify that directly on the return.
It seems so. So let's see if we can do.
Oh, in the fetch,
Yes.
like on the client itself.
Yes.
This is so
Exactly. So now we can already see that data is now either an array of books or null. Of course, it can be null if it doesn't find anything.
yeah,
So I think that's pretty nice already. But
amazing.
we can, like, if we try that now, we will probably get problems, or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it would probably work if we got the fields renamed to Camel case.
Yeah, exactly.
Because our app is expecting that, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. So what we actually want.
Oh, plus you're not returning anything right now.
Yes,
currently you're
we
just
have to
logging
return
in.
stuff, of course. So yeah, that makes sense. Value is always truthy, but it can be null, can't it? I don't know.
Well, maybe the client just returns an empty array and you don't have to do that, you know?
I think if it's null, we would get an error. So if it's null, it's gonna jump into this if clause. So if we return it here, we should already know, I think, that it's not
That
null.
it has something in it, like that there's at least the data exists, so to say, or the table.
So now we get some errors. Books.map is not a function. Let's see.
Maybe we have to destructure books from data or something, you know, like, is there like a...
I think what we definitely need to do is deal with that snake case situation. So if we do something like map, that's a lot of parentheses here. And then I was thinking to use that library, what was it called? TypeScript, this one, TS case convert. Let's see, because that looks kind of like what we want. Object to Camel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see if that works. Book to object to Camel of book.
Nice. And since
Nice.
since map just returns a new array, right? Like we're mapping through the data that we wanted to return, but we're not returning the data. We're doing the transformated version.
But now that I think of it, we have one problem. We are telling Supabase we are returning books, but we aren't really, because here in our book interface we have the Camel case, and we only convert it down here.
Oh,
you see my point? So we might.
That's a nasty problem.
Maybe I'm thinking if this will work. If we just create a second interface, let's call it maybe DTO. I think that's quite common for like data transfer object, where we have our snake case version.
I see.
I don't know if that's the issue, but I can kind of see how this wouldn't work.
So this is
So now we're returning this, but now how are we telling this function that it will turn it into a book object. Can we specify the type here?
Well, you could just create before, like, instead of doing it on the return itself, we make like a new variable and go like, like transform data or Camel data.
Camel data.
That's so horrible at naming stuff.
And then we kind of tell it that it's a book array, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then return the books. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, now let's see. Books.map is not a function. Let's look at our app.
Let's see what it made, right? Like exactly what it's getting.
We have, of course, now an async function.
Oh, that too. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Does the app have to have an async on it? Like the function definition of app?
It's because otherwise that would just be a promise, I assume. No, objects are not valid as a React child.
Maybe log the data and see like what we made, right? There. Yeah, I think you might even have to comment the map function. Oh no, it's not. Oh, I thought the cool.
The data doesn't really seem to be the problem.
It's transformed beautifully. That's
right.
awesome.
So thank you, TSK's convert. I'm gonna start the repository afterwards.
Okay. What is it dying over then?
Let's check.
What is it complaining about? I mean, for that error, then is any of the values in one of the objects not the plain string now that we're trying to, render through curly braces?
Yeah, but that's a good question. What does the book item do?
Yeah, so we have...
You can try to log some stuff again here, maybe. So it doesn't even go into the book item function, I think.
Oh, interesting. So, I mean, what if we just replace the book item with, I don't know, let's just render the book ID or whatever.
Yeah. Nice.
For a second.
Ooh.
Oh. No. Oh, okay. Well, I have to provide like some sort of node to put in. Yeah, you can also have a key if you really to. Is it doing something now? No.
Found object promise.
I'm wondering if if our app function can be async.
I think it can't, probably.
And like maybe we have to encapsulate the whole awaiting fetching stuff into a component that is actually async.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that might be the problem, that our function is now async, which doesn't really make sense. So I think it can't be async, as you said.
Okay, then let's revert all of this. And then what? Like
what if, just to try it, we just use a state? So what if we say, like that? So we use state for the books, start with an empty array. And then we will just call our function in a useEffect once it renders.
Oh, and make that async.
Right. Can useEffect be async? That's the next question.
Let me check.
And then here we will also catch the error. Please add braces. Okay, I shall add braces.
Yeah. Maybe we would have to inside of the useEffect.
Yeah.
Define an async function.
Yes.
Right? That we then call in. Nils, stop talking. You did it. Awesome. Look at this.
So it's
Huh?
not super
What did
pretty.
you do? Let's look at this real quick. So you're
So
just
yeah, we
defining
are just
state. Mm-hmm.
using the useEffect, which should be called once the component renders. So we will kind of start with an empty book array. Then we call our async function. And once it returns something, we set the books to the return value.
Get
That's kind
all
of
books
it.
is async already. We don't even have to make like an async function that does the fetching yarf because
I
get all
mean,
books is async already,
here
right?
we are kind of awaiting the promise by using this like dot then catch syntax.
Yes.
We could also like it's equivalent to saying await all books. Yeah, await get all books. I think that's kind of the same thing.
Cool. And in a real app, we would start the app with like a loading state, and then once
Exactly.
books is like not empty anymore, we could kind of swap the UI
Yeah.
and like now it's just doing we're just doing nothing.
Yeah.
But like if we were going to be real, then that would be a good place to handle loading state, right?
Yes, absolutely. And again, this is like
Nice.
a little bit weird because we're doing this like SPA approach and also fetching data in the front end. Yeah, but it works. We are
Sure. I mean, if you're,
displaying
of course,
something.
if you're on anything that does server-side rendering, then
Yeah.
yeah, that is like, especially this initial call is something that you would definitely do on the server. So it can already run at build time or whatever. And then, right, like do it again when you hydrate the app in your browser, sure. But in our prototyping case, I think, yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
Awesome.
Cool. So
So
we have
cool you did.
data.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you for showing me how to do this. Like yeah, I was hoping that it would be like this. Um and so now I'm actually super excited to do something with Supabase.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, it did take quite long, but we also explained a lot around Supabase, what it can do, what it can't do.
Yeah,
So the next step, of course, would be write data to the database, but I think we will have to do that in the next session episode.
toads.
Yeah, I think that's probably a nice place to stop. So we connected our database, we can read data from it. That's pretty
Perfect.
cool, I would say.
Super cool. And I mean, now that we figured out all the, you know, async effect stuff, like, all the tiny foot guns that you encounter when you do something like this. Like,
Exactly.
if we know this now, I guess, like, once we have one form running, we'll be super quick with the edit form, with the delete form, with all of that stuff. So you just have to know that once. And,
Definitely.
right, like, to our idea of prototyping and code, all this stuff you do for the first time, and
Yeah.
when you right, like when you put together your second and third prototype, well, you either just know it or you just grab whatever you did before. And
Yeah.
I think you can be up and running in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, right, like you
Absolutely.
just put in the structure on Supabase, grab the key, yank it in there, fetch it, and be up and running. And
Exactly.
that's super cool.
And from now
Nice.
on, I think, yeah, as you said, it's only going to get easier. We will just add more functions to this book service for creating a book, which, yeah, the syntax will be super similar.
Cool.
I think the only challenge will really be forms, because forms can be a little bit tricky. I think both from a UX perspective, which you will know a lot about. But then again, we have to make sure that we send the data in the correct format. So
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of do the inverse of what we did here, but we'll figure it
Exactly.
out. So I think that would be a nice goal for next time, to be able to create a book and write it into our database.
Awesome sauce.
Nice.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Thanks again. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll continue this next week.
Yes. Nice.
All right. See you everyone. Ciao.